What did he say?
Well, he introduced himself as, I am Saddam Hussein, I'm president of Iraq, and I'm willing to negotiate. And of course, we accepted his surrender.
Some people say that he actually spat at one of the soldiers and the soldier hit back with a rifle butt.
I don't know.
You didn't see that yourself?
No.
In the shack beside the hole, a kitchen area was littered with food. Next door, a bedroom with a stack of books, a ceremonial flag propped against the wall, the only reminder of Saddam's lost status. His swimming trunks were hanging on a tree for bathing in the river. A metal box was found with $750,000, and there was a gun, which Saddam failed to use on the Americans or on himself, despite his pledge to die a martyr. Some of the papers in his briefcase revealed those around him had been feeding Saddam with lies about what was happening in Iraq while he was on the run.
They had made one comment that one of our units had lost like 100 tanks or something like that, some outrageous statement in there, and told them that they'd been real successful and everything was going great in their area when it was very much far from the truth. So
he continued to be deluded to the end?
Yeah, really, very much so. Very much so.
A path from the shack where Saddam surrendered leads down to the river Tigris. 44 years before, at this same spot, he'd swum the river and made his getaway after attempting to kill Iraq's then leader. It was an event commemorated each year by Saddam in a ritual swim. He used it to bolster the myth of his invincibility. Now he'd been captured here, within a few miles of the place where he'd been born and where his sons were buried.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
A former Iraqi foreign minister and exile was on the platform when Saddam's capture was announced.
As soon as Ambassador Bremen said, we got him, there were cheers all over the place and people were crying. It was a very emotional period. I mean, a lot of people have lost so many relatives of their own, so many friends, so many. It's really Iraq passed through terrible, terrible times.
Saddam was shown submitting to medical tests in a humiliating television broadcast, an echo of the earlier controversial parading of the bodies of his sons. The Americans and some Iraqis claimed these pictures were necessary to prove the dictator had finally been defeated without even putting up a fight.
A lot of Iraqis felt that he should have committed suicide, or he should have at least resisted like his sons, and you know, and go down as a fighter.
Saddam was taken to the American high-security prison at Baghdad airport. A delegation from the Iraqi Governing Council went to see him, amongst them Adnan Parchichi. They found the former dictator dismissive when confronted with accusations of his crimes against the Iraqi people.
He said, no, they told him what happened to the mass graves. He said, well, I think they're probably either deserters or criminals. So he didn't seem to be remorseful or repentant.
A phone call came through from President Bush for Dr. Parchichi as he was leaving Saddam's cell.
As we went out from Saddam, the president called up and I said, well, we are very happy in this, that, yeah.
And how did he sound?
Elated.
Following Saddam's capture, the Spider Hole became a magnet for US soldiers. Amongst them Lieutenant Colonel Russell's unit, which had tracked down the bodyguards over many months. And Colonel Hickey and his men who were there that night, brandishing Saddam's cash box for the camera. Since Panorama's visit a few weeks ago, the hole has now been capped with concrete. The trusted bodyguard and clansman who betrayed Saddam to the Americans won't be reaping any benefit, unlike the other relative who'd informed on Uday and Qusay.
There was a $25 million bounty on Saddam Hussein's head.
Yes.
Who gets the money?
I'm not sure. I don't think anybody gets the money. I think the U.S. Treasury is going to save $25 million.
Because the source is under arrest.
The source has a very shady background, so he will not get the reward.
As for the former First Family of Iraq, Saddam's wife Sajida and their youngest daughter are now living in Syria. Sajida has refused to break her silence. His other daughters, Ragad and Rana, are in exile in Jordan. Ragad gave this fierce defense of her father just after his capture.
I'm once again proud that this person is my father. We all know what the purpose is of the way in which he was displayed. Where is democracy? Where is the immunity that every president of a country enjoys? But there he is. I swear that the lion remains a lion, even if he is chained. Do you think that they could have caught him without drugging him?
With Saddam in jail, evidence of his regime's atrocities committed across 3 decades is still being uncovered and trials prepared. It will be months, perhaps years, before Saddam himself faces his accusers. The coalition worked so hard to capture a man they believe committed crimes against humanity. But when he goes on trial, many nations, including the US and Britain, may face hard questions too.
I think this should be really on trial. Why Saddam was allowed to do this, why he was allowed to become a tyrant, and why he was allowed to stay in power for that long. So I think this is all is going to be on trial.
That sounds as if the West will have some questions to answer as well.
I guess everybody is going to have a lot of questions to answer for.
As Saddam Hussein awaits his fate, likely to be the death penalty, he is reportedly vague and uncooperative. But he still talks as if he was president of Iraq.
What was your picture as you left him in that cell alone? What did you think?
You can imagine what kind of thoughts must have gone through his head. I mean, to see himself in this situation, and it's really something almost of Shakespearean or ancient Greek proportions. And when we finished, he said, "Is that all?" As though he was expecting something else. He was expecting, you know, some kangaroo trial, you know, as he, during his regime, you know, they used to bring people and try them, and within half an hour the trial is finished and they face a firing squad.